Hello, I'm here with Rio Perry. What did you do yesterday?
I came top 4 at the Genesys UK Open, the second largest Genesys event in Europe.
Yeah, congratulations. It was 164 players. There were 8 rounds. What was your record?
I was X1 by round 8.
Fantastic. And what deck were you
I
playing?
was playing DARKLORDs for the event, just pure old DARKLORDs.
Cool. What decks were you expecting to face at this event?
Just magnets, it was really cheap. I didn't expect the turnout to be too great for a Genesys Open after advance, and I felt like a lot of people were just playing it in advance and would just sleeve up different non-engine and rock up on the day.
Okay. Were there any decks you were surprised to face while you were playing the event?
Yeah, the Elf Note decks, I didn't think people would have the cards or just leave them up for Genesys. I thought they would just play Cool Tune instead. So I was a bit surprised seeing a lot of Elf Note around the room.
All right. Okay. Do you want to get into the deck list with us?
Sure thing. So it's 40 cards, clean. Starting off, we got 3 yugioh. This card is great. It draws 2. It costs points because it draws 2. And it can copy any of the effects, which is great because you normally summon one back on your end board as long as you're not in nib range. And then we got the good DARKLORD card, Gulaget. You want to pitch this off yugioh because anytime it hits graveyard, you search any forbidden or DARKLORD cards. So you're basically going +3 when you yugioh send Gulaget. You can also summon Gulaget off of other cards or just send it to graveyard with like a Minerva Mill.
And you can summon it to your opponent's field, right?
Yeah, you can summon it to your opponent's field using Indulged, which gives you 1 card to your hand and summons 1 to your opponent's field in defense position. And by doing that, you have ways to destroy it with like a spell card, or if it's turn 2, Indulge can actually be over Gulaget in defense mode and then trigger the search that way, which comes up quite a lot. It also doing that forces out so much interaction sometimes because they want to keep you off the search, because Gulaget a lot of the time will just search for a forbidden quick play, which does turn off a lot more interaction.
Did you ever have any opponents who used the effect of Gulaget on summon?
I had one opponent use the effect of Gulaget on summon, which summons 2 Dark Fairy tokens that are level 6 and then locks them out using Nib. Do not do that if your DARKLORD opponent gives it to you, unless you're also on DARKLORD and you're going to stop their dance with a bell or something, because otherwise they just get a free fusion summon for no punish at all. Next we got DJ. He summons any DARKLORD from deck in defense mode and locks into fairies. That's his main power, because you can summon out an yugioh to copy an effect in grave, or you can summon out an Indulge to get into Gulaget as well. He just provides a lot of bodies on the board, and there's no real cost to it because you only played these 2 normal summons. He also has a graveyard effect to add any DARKLORD or Forbidden card from grave to hand, as long as I control a Dark Fairy. So what you could do quite frequently would be use Crown to break a board, and then use DJ at the end to add the Crown back, and then you have it for interacting when your opponent tries to break through your newly set up board. That won me so many games because Forbidden Crown is a crazy card. Then we play the not so good DARKLORDs. So we play 1 Nasten. He's just great for pushing boards, just because he sends 2 to graveyard, so you can send Gulaget, or you can send any of the spell traps in hand that you've opened multiple of, and then copy their effects. So quite frequently you're using him to dump a banishment or a rebellion, and then using those to break boards going second. He's also just fairly light. He's 26, comes from hands. So you can use it to beat over some threats that your opponent could have. I didn't do that much. I think I only summoned Nasten like twice this event, but he's another card you can summon off of Indulged for fusion material. Okay. And then you got to play the 2 mandatory engine requirements of Morningstar. You play 2 specifically because 1 isn't enough, because you some games, if you can't kill your opponent, you need the second board wipe. And you can only do the board wipe if you fuse with Morningstar, which is why I play 2, even if he is a complete brick and doesn't do much outside of be a pitch for that Nasten or yugioh. It's just the board wipe is so valuable in this format, where Illusion Gates costs nothing and decks just completely crumple to that. So I wanted to play as many ways to get to my board wipe as possible. Okay. For engine spells, we got 3 Banishment. Adds any DARKLORD card. That's what it says. It's really good. It adds any card you want, and you can use it. Says once per turn, but because you can copy it, you can sometimes get up to 3 uses of it per turn, depending on how many you open. So quite frequently, you're just adding everything you could possibly want and need and more with this card. And honestly, if DARKLORD's engine was to see points, I'd be surprised if this isn't one of them, just because it gets you into the entire archetype so easily and frequently. You then play the War on Contact, which is Monster Reborn. This is to help play through Bell on Dance, which is your fusion spell. Also, just lets you get to multiple people who can copy effects on the field at the end of your combo. Also, really good to nib if people just... if you try to leave main and they nib you, you can just contact back whatever they've nibbed and then use that monster's effect to copy the contact and summon back another card. So the nib is more of an aesthetic as opposed to a problem for the deck. You got 2 Dance. The fusion spell, you play 2 because Bell isn't 10 points, so people will play multiple copies of it. And it's activate once per turn. This lets you fuse by banishing. You can use both fields as long as it's for a DARKLORD fusion and you're using DARKLORD cards, which is why you can indulge, give them a card and fuse off that card. You always want to leave one engrave, so you can do the board wipe on your opponent's turn. I wouldn't play 3 though, because you don't want to see it, and no plays, just because standard is like just normal like fusion theory. You don't want to play 3 poly because you can open 3 poly and no actual names to play with, and that's the same.
Ever face anyone using DD Crow on DARKLORD Dance when you tried to copy its effect?
I only got hit by 1 DD Crow at the event, and it was a DD Crow onto my Gulaget when it hit the graveyard, so it couldn't trigger. DD Crow on any of the spells you're trying to copy is really brutal, especially Dance on your opponent's turn. It just completely cuts out of the board wipe unless you have multiple copiers on the field at the same time who haven't used their effects yet. But then that's more susceptible to like targeting effects as well.
Yeah.
Then we have the traps. We've got 1 Sanctified. This is just imperm, but more importantly, it gives you life points. So, because obviously all the copies cost 1,000 life, you want to be able to recoup that life point. So while you're negating a Medius or a Cool Tune Trackmaker, you can gain some life points back in the process. So you can keep copying. And then you play the good one, which is Rebellion. This is a non-target pop, which is crazy good. And then you shuffle it back for a second pop. So you're quite frequently just popping 2 things per turn. Really into Exosister because they trigger off your copies because you moves a card out the graveyard, but then you can just pop the card that would trigger, or you can chain and pop whatever they do summon. But yeah, this card is the best card. You side this one out when you're going second because the negate's not that good, but the pop is really good. Because if you get the pop in graveyard early through like Nasten or Ixchel, you can start copying the pop on your opponent's turn when you're bringing their board, and it feels really good. That's all the engine that I play.
Yeah.
It's fairly hefty.
Yeah, how many cards is that?
This is... So that would be 23 engine.
Okay. So 23 engine and 17 non-engine.
Yes.
And what did you choose to play?
So for my searchable non-engines, 1 Droplet, 1 Crown. Best card in the deck. Any normal summon that would be a starter is just completely shut down. Against Elf Note, you hit the guy in the middle and their turn just ends. Against Cool Tune, you hit the normal summon and their turn just ends. Droplet going second, crazy card. Great into Radiant Typhoon to dodge Mandate. Good into Cool Tune again to dodge RS. Also just helps you get around tricky cards because until you get to your fusion monsters, a lot of your DARKLORD monsters are just completely fake and don't have much board presence.
Did you have any Cool Tune opponents who chained Cool Tune Synchro to Forbidden Crown?
I didn't have a game state where they could.
Right, you kept them off of it as much as you could.
I would crown late and force out the interaction through other means, specifically like around playing through Zarlin and such.
Okay.
For other non-engine, we play 3 orange. I mean, it's Gamma.
It is Gamma for an extra card.
Costs nothing for some reason. It's the craziest card ever. It should definitely cost points. Please this should be like 15 points. It's Gamma's 15, and you have to play Brick for it. This one you have to open 2 fairies, so it should still also be 15.
Not too hard in the Darklord deck.
Exactly. Or like in Cool Tune even, you play Q who's a fairy, play Red Nova who's a fairy. And that means if you just only play orange, that's at least 9 fairies that you're seeing. Another one is 3 green. This should be 7 points. It's Delta. They're not once per turn, so if you open multiple, you are off to the races. I mean, I don't know why these cost nothing. These are the best cards in my deck. My opponents would see it coming, but they still just can't play around it because it's just so strong in a format like Genesys, where there's not much extenders into negate and destroys. I played 1 Book of Eclipse. I had points left over after sorting out my deck, and I just thought 3 points for a card that's really good into magnets would be great because this turns off their entire board. At most, they get to a Flux, but then I can play through a singular bounce, so I wasn't too concerned. I then also played a copy of Mutiny in the Sky. The theory behind this was it's a great mill off Minerva, and also it helps you push through like a Ghost Bell. I didn't activate this card once. I started out every single game. I wish I didn't play it. This could be any other card in the game. It could be like anything. It could be a normal monster.
Could have been Blazing Cartesia.
It could have been Blazing Cartesia, but I had to cut Eclipse for it. And I feel like Blazing Cartesia would be the similar situation of I don't really want to play it. I think this should just be another 3 breaker, maybe like an enemy controller or a 3rd copy of the Final Bringer of the End Times. This is great, brilliant card for both preventing your opponent from playing, because again, you have a lot of fake bodies on your board, but also if your only starter is Indulge and you give them Gulaget, you can pop the Indulge and the Gulaget with this to trigger the search on turn 1, which I did on the feature match, if any of you caught me on that round 7. And then 2 Double Wild. I'm going to keep this here as a shame. I should be ashamed I played this. 2 Double Wild. This card adds Ixchel. That's all it does. Just edit. The more ways I can access Gulaget and Ixchel in my hand, the better I felt. It also has an effect that lets me discard to summon the Ixchel, but I never once used it, and I never once considered using it. This was just purely here to add Ixchel to my hand so I can draw 2 cards.
You don't have to summon exactly the Ixchel, but I suppose there was never a time when you want to summon any fairy from your hand.
No, because a lot of the time my hand it would be Gulaget in my hand, or Morningstar, who legally cannot be summoned. So
yeah.
And the reason I want to draw 2 cards so much is because you got the Heralds, who are crazy, and you also have Dominus Impulse. This is 20 points. I do not know why you would not play this card at 3 if you can. This is one of the best cards Konami has ever printed, and it conflicts with the Heralds as long as you don't use the Heralds first, so I never had a conflicting problem with them. It beats Sheena, it beats Clip, it beats Bonding, it beats Quicken Synchro, it beats the Omni Negate that Elf never has. I could go on. It beats everything. I don't know why you would not play this. You also have traps that you will have in your graveyard, so it will also destroy. It was the craziest card. It won me every game I saw it. My opponents would always be shocked when they saw this card and they'd forget what format they were in.
How many games did you see Dominus Impulse over your 24 duels you had?
At least over half. Like I'm deep drawing a lot with 2 cards. I saw it so much, and every time I did, it was crazy. Like one game, I Ixchel and I drew into this Crown going first. I set both, and there's just nothing you can do in Genesys if you're going into Crown Impulse plus a full board.
Yeah, it's more like you're playing against an advanced deck.
Which is what Darkwood felt like a lot of the time. I felt like I was just playing a rogue advanced deck in a format where hand traps were banned. So that's my main deck. I liked it. The only change I'd make really is the Mutiny in the Sky being cut for another Final Bringer of the End Times or an enemy controller. I only bricked once, and it was my only loss. It was against Archmage. I just opened 3 side cards, a Morningstar and a Gulaget, just couldn't play, and he just blew me out.
Okay, let's see your extra deck.
Sure thing. So we got 3 Evening Star. He's the new one. He's the shiniest. He sets 2. From deck, when he's summoned, he can't be targeted and he has the copy. It says he's got 3,000 attack, but when you summon him off dance, he has 4,000 attack. So he's big, untargetable, and he gets you into your engine more. And a lot of the time, you can just kind of sit on him if your opponent is playing, just because a lot of decks in Genesys struggle to get over an untargetable 4k body. And then, like, because you could crown him if you're getting illusion gated and just sit on him and then wait till next turn and then start playing. Because the only other card that's harder to out than Evening Star is the first, and that's because he's a 5,000 untargetable guy when you summon him off dance. Not only is he the awesome board wipe, but if I choose not to board wipe, then he's also a summon. When you see later on, I am on heavy poly, so sometimes I would heavy poly into him just for the targeting protection, so my normal summon would not be able to be affected by Exorcista or Cool Tune in any way, and it also forced them to Trackmaker this instead of something a bit more valuable. And then if they Trackmaker it and I haven't used its effects yet, then later on in the turn I can summon him back out and board wipe.
What did you send to Heavy Poly?
For Heavy Poly, I would use from my extra deck. It's pretty standard.
Could you say his name for me?
Vorpgate. He's full name. He's a Time Lord Progenitor. I don't know. Vorpgate. So this is the standard lineup. No deviations. This is very standard DARKLORD theory. If you're not on free Vorpgate, you are behind.
Everyone's been talking about this in my local
Speaking
tournaments.
of being behind, if you're not on a Trilogig, you're also behind.
Ooh, Trilogy. Get him.
Trilogig gets them. So this guy burns. Okay. Sorry. And then we played Lucy. This was the target for the Mutiny. Never summoned it. Never wanted to summon it. But this extra deck is super fake, hence the Trilogig. So you can kind of just play whatever you want in that slot. Probably just another Ulti Slayer target or a heavy body target. And then this card, brilliant card, Minerva. Use this off of your 2/4s that you summon. You can mill, you got great mills. If you mill any forbidden card, DJ adds it back to your hand. If you mill Gulaget, you get the search. If you mill one of the traps, you get the copy it earlier. It's also 2k attack, so if you're going second and you've only opened DJ, this lets you beat over the Gulaget, the Indulge with summon. And if it's popped, you get another 3 mills. I missed a lot with my mills on feature. I missed twice. But I wouldn't change this card. I'd probably play 2 of it just in case.
2 copies.
And then the last 3 slots, Packbit, Wagon, Valon, 3 Slayer targets, cost no points. I only resolved Slayer once for Packbit, and that was on feature, and I lost that game. But I think these are the 3 best targets because you don't have any back row like pops in Engine, so these 2 are great. And then Packbit is a double monster stop, so against like a deck like Punk, you can out the entire board with just on Packbit.
And it only requires a discard, but a lot of the cards you don't really care about having in your hand.
Yeah, exactly. The other problem is that both of these are Water Earth, so they do conflict with Impulse. That came up in testing for the event, but it never came up at the actual event because I never opened Slayer, or the matchups I was playing, I didn't side Slayer in.
Okay. All right, let's see your side deck next.
Sure, so the side deck, 15 cards. So we got 3 Twin Twister. I'm terrified of D-Fissure, so I want as many outs to it as possible.
Did you ever see any D-Fissure?
I saw D-Fissure round 3 and round 5. And I beat both those games. But this is also for like rogue, like Odeon players or the new Pumpkin archetype. But this also lets me discard Gulaget for more advantage, and it's 2. So I was playing the Starlight Road, so I was a bit wary of that. But
You'll be careful of those Labyrinth players that were definitely there.
Exactly. But also, because I was so terrified of D-Fissure, 2 MSD. These were Mind Crushers because I was afraid of Illusion Gate. But then I thought to myself, my opponents will be poor and will not be able to afford it. And I didn't see a single illusion gate all weekend, so I was right.
Yeah, I don't think any of us in our group saw any illusion gates other than in our hands.
3 purple light, cost no points, probably shouldn't cost any points, it's the worst one. This was just for if I went against like an Odeon Labyrinth backup. I did negate a mandate with this when they flipped it, which felt really good. But aside from that, I only signed it in one game against a Radiant Typhoon player who was really good. I did not flip it in, I guess like you can't.
There's no time you can flip it.
Yeah. 2 kaijus. The reason I went with Dogoran and Santa Claus is because they're the only 2 I own. And I couldn't be bothered to ask for anyone to lend me a Gamma Seal. Technically, it's better to play 1 kaiju, 1 Santa Claus, so you can kaiju 2 cards. I would sign them in most games, just because in this format, a lot of good cards could just be kaiju'd. Very good into DARKLORD as well, if you just hit the fusion monster.
Is there any reason you played these and not something like Lava Golem or Sphere Mode?
I need my normal summon, so I can play those.
Okay.
Then I played two Slayer for 2 points, just get up to 100. I probably wouldn't play Slayer again. It didn't really come up. The matchups I had weren't very Slayerable. I probably played like I wouldn't play DARKLORD either because this deck OTKs like crazy because you have so much damage. I don't know what I would play instead. I'd probably rejig my deck to try and fit in a second Book of Eclipse because that card felt really good.
You could play cards like Dark Hole, which cost the same as Ultimate Slayer.
I could also play Dark Hole, or like if I had the money, some illusion gates. But speaking of, here are 3 heavy polys that I borrowed because I'm not paying for heavy polys. These were great whenever I saw them. I saw them against Exorcista. I saw them against Cool Toon. And when they resolved and like the first Dark hit the field, I would win. Good card. Way too high of a price. I hope they reprint it.
Was it always the first Dark Lord you summoned, or did you ever summon Evening Star or Phantasmal Emperor Trilogic?
Well, you can't summon Evening Star with this card. That would be illegal because he only requires 2 materials to summon. And I did not summon Trilogic. Unfortunately, my boy had to stay locked in the extra deck. He did get hit. A clip did get him one time though, and I felt really sad for him. But
Did your opponent ask any questions about that?
no, I kind of just gave him a knowing look, and he looked back at me. And
They
then
must have been also familiar with Trilogic.
the technology. Well, it's standard in DARKLORD. Like if you're not playing Trilogic, you're behind. That is the deck that I got to a 4th place finish with at the Genesys Open, 2nd biggest event for Genesys in Europe, only behind the Proto YCS. I had fun. It was a good time. The feature was great. Thank you to anyone who watched the feature match live and gave me your courage and support. I probably would take DARKLORD to another event if the points don't change. I like the deck. I think it's fun. I think it's just a little too bricky for advanced, so I'm glad it found a home in Genesys format.
Are there any changes you'd make if you could play this event again, specifically?
I would not have marked OCG sleeves by mistake as my extra 6 sleeves, and I would take a different deck box, so I wouldn't get a deck box warning either. So I can reduce the amount of stress I get from deck checks. That'd be the only change that I would make outside the ones I already discussed, like Mutiny being cut and Lucy being cut for 2 better cards.
Okay. Are there any point changes you want to see around this deck specifically in future Genesys lists?
Yeah, as I said, Heralds should cost way more than they do. They are way too cheap for what they do. I can see Impulse going back to 25 if this catches on. I don't know how much of a trendsetter this is, but if Impulse gets played a lot more, I would want it to go back to 25. Crown should be 20. That guy's crazy. For specific DARKLORD engine though, probably Banishment gets some points just because it does search the entire deck. and you being able to use it multiple times does make it an issue for decks to keep up with limited interruption. And then Gulaget as well, just because he can search the forbidden cards, probably worth putting a few points on him. Those are the main ones that I would change. Maybe you can argue Evening Star gets points, so you can't play 3, and then you're more susceptible to like Clip or an extra deck Rip that might be coming out in the future that I don't know about. But yeah.
All right, great. Do you have any shout outs before we end this video?
Yeah, so I'd like to shout out Caraman, Jacob, Woods TCG, Woodman, great friend of mine. I'd like to shout out Joe, James, Palmer, Mingo, Sam, Alexis, Haley, Purcell, Dom, and Andy, my dangerous defending brothers and sisters. I'd like to shout out to my fugitives, Felix and Matt, my Boldy, Rocco, my 2 duelist friends from different locations, Spike and Benji, the Stag and Hound for Genesis Tuesdays, where we do some serious Genesis testing.
Best locals in the country.
It's the most consistent Genesis locals in the country. You could ask anyone. I'd like to shout out my parents, just for the love and support, and my brother, even if he doesn't know that I do this. I'd like to shout out to Don Zalug, Pocket from Deadlock, and the guy I actually stole this entire idea from was my round 5 opponent at the Proto YCS in Dortmund. I'm going to butcher your name, I'm so sorry, I'm very white. Guido Hendricks, I hope that's your name. I hope that's close. Thank you for inspiring me with your DARKLORD deck after I watched you round 5.
Thanks so much for the deck list.